Okay, so I'll just welcome everybody to the dangers of vaping and why tobacco retail licensing matters. Thank you, Elise and Jesus, for coming and talking to us.
Thank you so much, Jack, and thank you for having us today. We're really excited to be partnering with Whittier Public Library on this event today. So I will be giving this presentation along with my colleague, Jesus Rivera, Health Promotions Manager.
Yeah, and I'll be doing it in Spanish. So at least we'll take care of the English side.
That sounds great. Thank you, guys.
All right, wonderful. So during today's presentation, we will be talking about a few different topics. We'll be talking about what exactly is vaping and electronic cigarettes and what are the health effects of these products. We will also talk about tobacco retail licensing and why that is important, and what we can do to help people quit vaping and using other tobacco products.
Hoy vamos a hablar sobre el vapeo y los cigarrillos electrónicos y cuáles son sus efectos en la salud. También vamos a hablar de qué son las licencias de venta de tabaco y por qué son importantes. Y también hablaremos de cómo de dejar sus productos, de parar de usarlos.
So first, I want to just touch on some facts about smoking. So in 2018, 14% of US adults over 18 were current cigarette smokers, which is about 35 million people. And smoking was the leading cause of preventable disease and death in the US, with over 480,000 deaths per year. We also know that smoking is really harmful to the body. It harms nearly every organ, and it has over 7,000 chemicals in terms of cigarette smoke, and smoking is responsible for the majority of lung cancer deaths, as well as deaths caused by COPD.
Voy a presentar unas información sobre el fumar. En el 2018, el 14% de adultos estudiados mayores de 18 años fumaban cigarrillos. Fumar es la primera causa de muerte evitable. Entonces, esos son personas que sin fumar probablemente estarían vivos. Fumar daña casi todos los órganos del cuerpo. Fumar es responsable por 90% de las muertes por cáncer y 80% de las muertes por COPD. Y sí.
So what is vaping or e-cigarettes? So it's a type of tobacco product that's sold in the US for about a decade, and they include something called vapes, e-pens, e-pipes, e-hookah, and e-cigars. And these are known as a group as electronic nicotine delivery systems. And they're different from traditional e-cigarettes because they are battery operated, and they include an e-liquid that heats up in a refillable cartridge.
Entonces, ¿qué es vapear y qué son los cigarrillos electrónicos? Es un nuevo tipo de producto que tiene aproximadamente 10 años en la marqueta. Incluye bolígrafos electrónicos, pipas electrónicas, cigarros electrónicos, conocidos colectivamente como INDS. Son sistemas electrónicos que usan una batería y también tienen nicotina. Son diferentes a los cigarrillos tradicionales porque son electrónicos y usan un líquido que es calentado por una batería para distribuir la nicotina.
So over the years, e-cigarettes have changed in shape and size. So they used to look more like traditional cigarettes, and they really now are much bigger. And as you can see, they also have this rectangular shape and are now more customizable.
Los cigarrillos electrónicos han salido como en 3 generaciones. Los primeros que salieron parecían a un cigarrillo, nomás que eran electrónicos. La segunda generación fueron un poco más grandes, y la tercera generación hasta más grandes, pero también tienen la oportunidad de cambiarle las partes y a hacerlos más diversos.
Okay, so now the 4th generation pods, which we call pod mods, are the most popular among teens. And some of those products include Juul, for instance. That is a really popular one. These are smaller, easy to hide devices, and they don't often look like e-cigarettes.
La nueva generación de cigarrillos electrónicos, que se llaman muchas veces pod, no parecen a cigarrillos electrónicos. Un ejemplo es Juul. Esos productos parecen a veces como memory sticks o cartuchos de memoria, y son fáciles de esconder o fácil de no conocerlos como productos de fumar.
So who uses e-cigarettes? E-cigarettes are the most commonly used tobacco product by youth. And actually in 2020, this year, about 1 in every 5 high school students, 19.6% reported using e-cigarettes in the past 30 days.
Entonces, ¿quién usa los cigarrillos electrónicos? Este año se reportó que 1 de cada 5 o 20% de estudiantes usaban cigarrillos electrónicos o lo habían usado en los últimos 30 días. El uso de esos productos ha incrementado muchísimo.
So what's in an e-cigarette? And what's in the spray of an electronic cigarette? We want to really emphasize that the electronic cigarette spray is not harmless water vapor. And this spray that users inhale and then exhale contain harmful and potentially harmful substances such as nicotine, as well as volatile organic chemicals, heavy metals, as you can see on this list. So just a lot of really harmful ingredients.
Entonces, ¿qué hay en los cigarrillos electrónicos? Muchas veces lo que se ha dicho es que contienen más vapor de agua, que es lo que sale, pero en verdad tienen nicotina, tienen partículas ultra finas, metales. Todo esto no es bueno para el cuerpo y no es vapor de agua.
So how did e-cigarettes become so widespread? So they continue to go unregulated by the FDA. And they're also very discreet. As you can see in the picture, there is an e-cigarette along with some school supplies. And so it's really easy to hide. And sometimes even teachers or school nurses, relatives can have a hard time figuring out if their child has an e-cigarette or is vaping. These products are also heavily marketed to youth. And because we're seeing vaping in TV shows, on Netflix, celebrities are using these vape products, it's kind of become its own cultural phenomenon.
Entonces, ¿por qué son los cigarrillos electrónicos tan populares? Una de las razones es porque todavía no son regulados por el FDA. Son chicos y fácil de esconder. En el ejemplo aquí me enseñan cómo son como del tamaño de un lápiz y pueden esconderse con otros productos de escuela. También mucho de lo que se ha hecho para venderlos ha sido dirigido a los jóvenes. Han tenido artistas, gente famosa, que jóvenes se atraen a usar estos productos y usarlos en sus redes sociales. Entonces, por eso lo ven mucho y se mira como algo popular.
So another thing we want to talk about is the flavors of the e-juices and e-cigarettes and the marketing behind them. So as you can see in the photo, there is different tobacco products. So there's these e-juices, there's snus, and there's chewing tobacco, cigarillos, but you can barely see what is candy and what is a tobacco product because of the marketing. So it's made to look like candy and really appeal to youth. And additionally, like we said earlier, the tobacco industry spends, loads of money, in this case, $26 million roughly every day on marketing. So they are really trying to hook these young people on these flavors.
También se hicieron populares porque los productos tienen sabores como que nos gustan, como dulces, panes. Aquí tenemos un ejemplo donde muchos de los sabores son comparables a dulces que conocemos. También la industria gasta mucho dinero en comerciales para que más gente los atraiga. Es estimado que se gastan como $26 millones al día tratando de vender esos productos.
So why should we care about e-cigarettes? Are not electronic cigarettes safer than regular cigarettes? Well, electronic cigarettes expose users to a smaller amount of harmful chemicals, but we know that the use of any tobacco product is dangerous for young people.
Entonces, mucha gente nos pregunta si esos cigarrillos electrónicos son mejores que los cigarrillos regulares. En verdad, sí, no distribuyen tantos químicos como un cigarrillo, pero con el uso constante sí distribuyen mucho y todavía son dañinos esos productos y los químicos que tienen adentro.
So now let's talk about the health risks of vaping and e-cigarettes.
Ahora hablaremos sobre los riesgos para la salud del vapeo y los cigarrillos electrónicos.
So we want to point out that the nicotine strength in cigarettes is much different than normal cigarettes. And so, for instance, some vapes use a newer form of nicotine called nicotine salt, which hits the brain faster and is more addicting.
Una de las razones que estos productos son dañinos es porque la nicotina es diferente a la de un cigarrillo tradicional. Contienen más nicotina y usan un nuevo sistema de nicotina, una nueva forma de nicotina llamada sal de nicotina que llega al cerebro más pronto y es más adictiva.
This is also a concern to see all these youth vaping, because we know that 90% of all adults who smoke started when they were young, under the age of 18. And we know that their brains are developing and more susceptible to addiction. So we really want to get these products out of the hands of young people.
Sabemos que esto es un problema para jóvenes porque 90% de los adultos que fuman empezaron cuando tenían menos de 18 años. Porque su cerebro no se ha desarrollado completamente. Eso también contribuye a la adicción y es más peligroso para ellos. Sabemos que durante esta época de su vida es socialmente aceptable que usen esos productos y es más... sus amigos pueden influenciarlos a que usen los productos.
We also want to talk about EVALI, which stands for e-cigarette or vaping use associated lung injury. So as you might have heard in the news, about a year ago or so, there were young people specifically around the country getting this severe lung illness related to e-cigarettes and vaping. So it was first identified last year, and there's been close to 300 hospitalized EVALI cases or deaths. So just really concerning to us. And then, this is something that just another reason why we don't want young people to start using e-cigarettes or vaping.
También una de las cosas que queríamos hablar sobre es eValley, que es un nuevo, algo que empezó a salir el último año. Hubo varios casos donde cigarrillos electrónicos, no solo de nicotina, pero también de marihuana, dañaron a jóvenes y adultos y causaron hasta muertes. Se ha reportado hasta 2,000, casi 3,000 casos de eValley, 2,807, desde el 18 de febrero de este año. La razón que esto pasó es porque había vitamina E, un aditivo en algunos de los cigarrillos electrónicos que era dañino cuando lo respiraban.
All right, so children of parents who smoke are twice as likely to start smoking as well, and at an earlier age. This trend also exists for older siblings and close relatives. So, we just want to make sure that people know, if your parents are smoking or your relatives, the children are more likely to start smoking too. We also know that the more liquor stores that exist in a community, the more addiction to tobacco and the likelihood that young people will start smoking at a young age. So there is this connection between the number of liquor stores in a community and the likelihood that someone starts smoking.
Entonces también la probabilidad de fumar es incrementada cuando la familia fuma. Si un hermano, un padre o un relativo que cercano fuma, es más también. También lo que vemos es de que también hay más fumadores en esas comunidades.
All right, is there risk for youth? So we do not know what e-cigarettes contain, but we do know that all electronic cigarettes contain nicotine. Electronic cigarettes also expose people to secondhand smoke, so there definitely are risks associated to using these products.
Entonces, ¿qué son los riesgos a la juventud? No sabemos qué contienen todos los cigarrillos electrónicos y también los jugos para estos cigarrillos. También sabemos que la mayoría de estos cigarrillos electrónicos contienen nicotina.
So there are no national regulations with respect to e-cigarettes, and the FDA is not required to have vaping companies say with certainty what is in their products, like e-liquids and e-juices. California does have some stricter rules, and we'll talk about a new bill. And some communities have established some laws, but everything is dependent on the city.
No hay mucha regulación nacionalmente para esos productos. El FDA no requiere no ha establecido leyes que exijan a los productos a las compañías que tengan los ingredientes de esos productos. California sí tiene leyes más estrictas, pero eso hablaremos en un poco más.
So what is tobacco retail licensing and why it matters?
¿Qué son las licencias de venta de minorista de tabaco y por qué importan?
So tobacco retail licensing requires all tobacco retailers to obtain a license with an annual fee. So basically it creates some rules around these retailers. Like for instance, it may prohibit tobacco retailers from being located within 500 to 1,000 feet of a school. And then these violations of ordinances will result in fines and/or suspension of a tobacco license.
Entonces, ¿qué son las licencias para la venta del tabaco? Estas licencias son usadas para controlar las tiendas de tabaco. Entonces, la tienda de tabaco paga cada año para su licencia, que el dinero va hacia controlar asegurarnos que sigan las reglas las tiendas. También pueden prohibir de que vendan cerca de escuelas o de parques. Y si hay una violación de la ordenanza, puede resultar en una multa o suspensión de su licencia.
So we know that higher tobacco retail density equals higher smoking prevalence in a community. So it's really important to send the right message about the harms of tobacco to youth and other people.
Entonces sabemos que cuando hay más ventas de tabaco o donde hay más ventas de tabaco, también hay más prevalencia del uso de tabaco. Por eso es importante de que mandemos un mensaje correcto sobre los daños del tabaco a los jóvenes y cualquier otra persona.
All right, so Senate Bill SB 793 was actually a bill that was recently passed in the state of California. This is a photo of Governor Gavin Newsom signing the bill, but it is to end the sale of retail flavored tobacco. So starting January 1st, 2021, California retailers will be prohibited from selling flavored tobacco products, including flavored e-cigarettes or vapes. That includes e-juice, pods, and cartridges, menthol cigarettes, flavored cigars, little cigars or cigarillos, loose leaf, roll your own tobacco, smokeless tobacco, and flavored tobacco product enhancers. There are a couple things that do not apply with this law, but it is basically a really landmark bill, and we at the American Lung Association are really excited to see this passed. I do want to mention, though, that there is a referendum underway, meaning that some tobacco companies have come together to gather signatures from the public to basically put this bill up for a vote. So you may have seen these folks working for the tobacco industry trying to gather signatures, outside different grocery stores or in their communities. So they're basically trying to make sure this law does not go into effect January 1st of next year. So just something for you to be aware of.
Entonces, este año se firmó una ley del Senado 793 que a partir de 2021 la venta de la mayoría de productos de tabaco con sabor ya no van a ser legales. Esto incluye cigarrillos con mentol, los cigarrillos electrónicos o vaporizadores con sabor, pero no incluye cigarros de $12 o más, que cuestan $12 o más, o tabaco de hoja que se usa para crear tu propio cigarrillo, y tampoco el producto de hookah o shisha. Pero también lo que ahorita está pasando es que hay esta ley está siendo la están tratando de dañar un poco y ponerla para un voto. Están pidiendo que gente firme una petición para que haga un voto sobre esta ley y posiblemente no pase. Si consiguen todas las firmas que necesitan, esta ley va a ir para un voto. Entonces, esperamos que saber si esto va a pasar a fines de noviembre.
So in Whittier, for instance, there are 69 tobacco retailers, and about 6% of the retailers are within 500 feet of a school, and about 1,000 about 20% are within 1,000 feet of a school.
Entonces, en la ciudad de, that's a wrong map. Can you go back to the other one? I'll
Sure.
translate it. Yeah, thank you. Entonces, en la ciudad de Whittier, Ahorita hay aproximadamente 69 tiendas que venden tabaco. La mayoría están por ciertas calles, pero 6% están a 500 pies de una escuela y 20% están a 1000 pies de una escuela. Entonces, muchas de estas tiendas sí están cerca de escuelas y muchas veces cuando los jóvenes caminan a casa, pues, hay oportunidad de que ellos pasen por estas tiendas seguidamente.
All right, so in terms of local tobacco retail licensing ordinances, I want to note that there are more than 100 communities in California that have adopted tobacco retail licensing ordinances. LA County actually banned the sale of all flavored tobacco products, and that was implemented in the spring of 2020, so this past spring. And this measure has proven to reduce youth tobacco sale rates as well as access to tobacco products. And that was, and I don't think this one is in Spanish.
I can translate it if you like.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, sorry.
Yeah, sure. Ahorita en California, más de 100 comunidades han pasado una ley para tener la licencia de tabaco, para la venta de tabaco. En la primavera de este año, el condado de Los Ángeles paró la venta de productos de sabor de tabaco. Y estas leyes se sabe que ayudan a prevenir que los jóvenes empiecen a usar el tabaco.
All right, so how to help people quit.
¿Cómo ayudar a las personas a dejar de fumar?
All right, so we know that 70% of smokers want to stop smoking, and many try even once in their life. And so there are a number of different ways that you can try to quit and different tactics you can use, and some of those are listed here.
El deseo de renunciar al tabaco. Sabemos que el 70% de los fumadores quieren dejar de fumar y muchos han intentado de dejar de fumar aunque sea una vez en su vida. Dejar de salir con sus amigos, con amigos que fuman. Entonces es una manera de parar de fumar. Aquí están otras maneras de que se han usado para dejar de fumar.
All right, so how to talk to your child about the dangers of tobacco. So before speaking with your child, it's important to have the correct information. And that's where we come in at the American Lung Association. We have so many different resources on this subject. It's also important to tell your children honestly and directly that you do not want them to smoke cigarettes or electronic cigarettes, and to give them clear, consistent messages about the risks of smoking and vaping, including the fact that nicotine is addictive.
Entonces, ¿cómo hablar con sus hijos sobre el tabaco? Antes de hablar con sus hijos es importante tener, asegurarse que tengan la información correcta. Puede adquirir su información sobre los cigarrillos electrónicos y también cigarrillos. Sea paciente y esté listo para preguntas que su hijo o hija tengan. Dígales a sus hijos o hijas de manera honesta y directa que no quiero que ellos fumen cigarrillos o cigarrillos electrónicos. Dales mensajes claros y coherentes sobre los riesgos de fumar, incluido el hecho de que la nicotina es adictiva y peligrosa.
So at the American Lung Association, we do have some programs for youth. This first one is called In Depth, and it is a tobacco education program for students who face suspension for violation of their school tobacco policies. The other program that we have for youth, it's called Not on Tobacco or Not. And this is our youth cessation program to help teens quit smoking or vaping.
En la Asociación de Pulmones sí tenemos programas para ayudar jóvenes que están fumando. El primero se llama In Depth. Es un nuevo programa, es una alternativa a la suspensión. Es un programa donde trabajan en grupo o con un maestro o una persona de la administración para corregir lo que han hecho. También tenemos el programa NOT, que es un programa para dejar de fumar para jóvenes.
We also have a vaping conversation guide for parents, and this is to help them talk to their child or teen about vaping, gives them the facts, and just helps give them the confidence to have this conversation.
También tenemos that's the only one we have, okay.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
It's okay. También tenemos un sitio de web donde tenemos un guía para cómo hablar con los jóvenes sobre el tabaco.
So for cessation support for adults, the American Lung Association has a program called Freedom from Smoking, and it's one of the most effective smoking cessation programs in the country. It comes in different formats. So we have a group clinic program that meets for 8 sessions over 7 weeks. We also have an online program, which is called Freedom from Smoking Plus, and we have a self-help guide.
En la sección de pulmones también tenemos programas para ayudar a adultos a parar de fumar. Tenemos el programa de Freedom from Smoking, que está en varios hospitales. Los programas o clínicas, los programas tienen 8 sesiones durante 7 semanas. Y también tenemos nuestra línea para dejar de fumar. Oh, thank you, Liz.
We also want to mention some cessation quit lines, and these are phone numbers you can call to help you quit smoking. So there is the California Smokers Helpline, which is 1-800-NO-BUTTS. They also have a vaping hotline, which is 1-844-8-NO-VAPE. And then at the American Lung Association, we also have a helpline and a quit line, which is 1-800-LUNG-USA.
También tenemos aquí números de teléfono para recibir ayuda para dejar de fumar. Las primeras son de California. La primera es 1-800-NO-BUTTS. Esa ayuda a dejar de fumar. Y también tienen una para vapeo, que es 1-844-8-NO-VAPE. También en la Asociación de Pulmones tenemos un número que es el 1-800-LUNG-USA, que también es en español.
And that is the end of our presentation. Thank you so much for listening, and we'd like to open it up to any questions.
Eso es todo, gracias. Ahora podemos tomar preguntas si tienen algunas.
Thank you so much. It was really informative. Does anybody have any questions? I feel like as soon as we stop recording, I'm going to have a million questions.
It's a lot of information. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a quick one. Sometimes people talk about using that to quit smoking. I'm assuming that's not a good idea, but is there there's probably no benefit to that, right? Even though it might be better than smoking, or is it just, that's not something you should consider?
That's a good question. So basically the FDA does not consider e-cigarettes to be a nicotine cessation replacement. There are currently 7 approved nicotine replacement therapies, and that includes the gum, nicotine inhaler, as well as 2 medications that can be used. So right, in the United States, we do not recommend e-cigarettes to be used in place of cigarettes. So we really, at the American Lung Association, strongly recommend, quitting as opposed to, using e-cigarettes. And Jesus, did you want to add anything to that?
Just that most of these the vapes that people use do have a higher level of nicotine than we mentioned. So, it's hard to get to come off of smoking when you're replacing it with something with even more nicotine. So that also could become a problem.
Oh, okay. Thanks for clarifying.
No problem.
Sure.
actually, just to add one more thing, there is also some people who have reverted back to smoking after vaping, and that's also a problem.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to add to, we didn't mention it in the presentation, but there's something called dual use, which is when people will use both tobacco product like cigarettes as well as e-cigarettes. And there's new research coming out showing that that is actually really dangerous for the lungs, the way those devices interact with the lungs. So just kind of an emerging topic that, we're hearing about. And so that is also something that's quite harmful.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Is there, are there any other questions?
I have a question about the secondhand smoke of vaping. You know, you see it so, I mean, it looks like a chimney when people are smoking, and are they doing a lot of studies about that, or is it just, I mean, because the nicotine is even more concentrated, is it even more dangerous now, or what?
Yeah, so there is more research coming out about the, it's technically called aerosol, which is like the secondhand smoke of e-cigarettes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we know that it's not just harmless water vapor, that that coming at, aerosol coming out, it does have a lot of different chemicals in it.
Mm-hmm.
So that includes heavy metals, another chemical called diacetyl, which is linked to a serious lung disease called popcorn lung, as well as formaldehyde has been detected in some of that aerosol, nicotine. So yeah, it's a lot of really dangerous chemicals. And we do know that, we just don't know still about how those chemicals are impacting the lungs, especially the lungs of young people that are still developing. So, we were so happy to hear about that bill SB 793, because we know that aerosol does have a lot of chemicals in it.
Wow. Yeah. I've been behind cars that, I see them, they're smoking and you can see the vapor coming out, and I right away, change my, roll up my windows so that I don't, inhale that, because I just think, whoa, it looks like dangerous. So.
And I think what's kind of misleading about the aerosol, like a lot of people don't think it's that harmful, in part because it's different than tobacco smoke or cigarette smoke, because it doesn't have that smell. So a lot of times it's odorless.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as dark. So sometimes people think, oh, it's not harmful, but
Right.
it actually is.
Yeah. It looks like paint. So, yeah. So Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you both.
Jesus, did you want to add anything too?
No, just I'm not sure if you caught that. I did mention that some of the vapes even smell sweet or like flavors, so that makes it even harder for a kid to tell that it's harmful.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Pretty tough. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. This was really great information, and I'm going to stop recording. So thank you for your presentation. I'm going to hit